Hey, what's up you guys? It's Bloody Jacob here to bring you another review. This time I'm going to be doing a review on the Werewolf horror film called Were. And if you guys don't know what Were is, it was made in, or at least released in 2013. It was directed by William Brent Bell. And, it's not like one of those bigger, highly budgeted films or anything like that. It didn't get a theatrical release or anything like that. It was released in Japan on November 16th of 2013, I guess. And just recently, just this August, it was put on video on demand for Comcast, which is how I was able to watch it. And yeah, it's only for like $4.99 for the non-HD version. So if you guys have Comcast, just go on demand and search Where, you'll find it. So, and I also believe it's being released on DVD September 23rd of this year, so if you guys really like the movie, that's when you guys can actually get your physical copy. So yeah, let's get into it a little bit. I don't want to have this review last too long, maybe 15-20 minutes tops. So yeah, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of horror films. I'm a pretty big werewolf fan too. You know, some of my favorite werewolf horror movies, including, of course, the Ginger Snaps trilogy, and I even enjoyed the 2010 remake of The Wolfman as well. So, you know, and then another movie like Dog Soldiers, that was alright, but the werewolf design is kind of shoddy in that one. But, there's others I could talk about, but, so yeah, I'm a big fan of werewolves in general, as long as they're done right for the most part. And when I seen the trailer for this movie, it looked amazing, man. You just type in "Where official trailer" on YouTube, you'll find it. It looks really awesome in the trailer. And is the movie as awesome as the trailer? No, I'm not gonna say it is, unfortunately. Um, I'm not gonna run through every part of the movie or every scene or anything like that. But I will tell you, like, the premise, like, the basis of, like, a little description of the story or something like that. So you guys know how it starts, at least. Oh, yeah, and the film also stars A.J. Cook. And if you guys don't know who she is, she's mainly on Criminal Minds. You guys have probably heard of that. And the guy who plays the main werewolf in this movie, supposedly, is Brian Scott O'Connor, but he doesn't really have a page for anything. It doesn't look like. I can't find it. But, yeah, so basically starts off with this family camping out near a woods area in France, I believe. And they basically, the father and the dog gets attacked. They're slaughtered, and the child is slaughtered as well, and only the mother survives, and she basically says the one that attacked and tore her loved ones to pieces, you know, was really hairy and he had really big hands or something like that. And, you know, basically they all point to Talan Gwynek, and he happens to live, you know, about 2 miles from where the killings took place. So he's automatically brought into custody. But at the same time, the guy that brings him in and arrests him, you know, it seems like he's involved in some kind of conspiracy with some land that Talon's family owns, and there's conspiracies of that going throughout the movie, but that's not really explained or explored too well, too much anyway. So, yeah, I could get into that a little bit more, and so basically, A.J. Cook's character, Kate, you know, she's brought in as Talon's attorney, and, you know, her and her team are trying to find a way to get Talon out of it, of course, by saying, oh, he has a certain disease, he's all hairy, and, you know, thus he's not physically capable of committing these crimes because he has this disease, or he's hardly able to move, you know, minus some seizures and things like that. Or when he does move, it's very, you know, limited and not too mobile. You know, minus like the very basics. So yeah, that's mainly the start of the movie, and Kate has some stuff going on because her team, there's Eric, he's sort of like the main guy she's working with on it, but there's also another guy, I can't remember his name too well. Um, let's see if I can find it. Okay, yeah. Gavin is his name in the movie. He's played by Simon Quarterman, I guess is his name. And Gavin is like the animal expert she brings in, but then you find out she has a bit of a history with him. Most likely ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend. So they have that kind of thing going on in the background. And, so they're basically trying to build up a case, to say that Talan is physically incapable of committing these murders or whatever. And, yeah, but then they eventually get some hints here and there that, there could be more going on than they originally thought. And, of course, when Talan is brought in to test to see if he has that disease, they're trying to, get into the minds of others. He basically freaks out and he basically goes into werewolf mode and he just slaughters everyone in the room and escapes. So yeah, it's kind of solidified at that point that he's a werewolf and he's probably responsible for these killings. But yeah, again, spoilers. I forgot to mention that, but really, I say in a lot of my reviews, if you're watching my reviews, and I'm just gonna assume you've seen the movie. But if you haven't and you just heard me spoil that part of it, I apologize. But hey, to give my best review, I feel like I need to talk about plot, points of the plot without having a spoiler restriction on them. So to really get in depth about them. So there's that. Like I said, I'm not going to run over every part of the plot here, but I did want to mention the main points. And there are some really, really good action scenes in this movie. Of course, with Talan, the werewolf, there's even a really good scene where a SWAT team surrounds him, then he shifts and he just goes into werewolf mode and he just takes out all the SWAT members in the room. Then he jumps out like a 10-foot window, not 10 feet, like a 10-story window, and he lands perfectly on his feet. And there's other scenes, where the SWAT or like the cops are trying to hunt him down, and there's just some really exciting stuff with it as far as the action goes in this movie. And another thing I liked about this movie is the fact that at the beginning right away, it all happens right away with the arrest of Talan and everything. We see all these flashes of news reports talking about it. So it really does a good job of giving you a sense that, it's a really big case and it's a really big newsworthy story that's happening in the movie right now. It's like all over the place, and it just does a really good job making you feel like what's going on is like really a big deal. You know what I mean? So it does that pretty well. And like I said, I'm not going to talk about every part of the story, but another thing I want to talk about is okay, well, let's see. I'm just going to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I don't want to get incredibly out of order here. So let's see. Yeah, I apologize, you guys. So anyway, I told you about Gavin, her animal expert that she has a history with. When she requests to have like a sit-down conversation with Talan in one of the security rooms before he escapes, obviously, but he grabs her wrists and everyone freaks out, even though it didn't seem to be that aggressive at that point. Gavin comes in there and he separates them and he tries to act all macho, which the character is not, by the way. I'll get to that in a couple minutes, and then I guess Gavin actually got a little nipped by Talan's teeth or something like that. So, and so then we realize throughout the movie that Gavin's slowly changing into this werewolf, basically. So, I don't know, that's part of the story I'm really not sure if I like too much, because I would have rather have had it just be Talan being the focus of it throughout the movie instead, but And I'll talk about that more when I get to the ending. And, eventually, Eric, the other guy she was working with, figures out, the whole lunar moon type of thing, is causing him to, have violent outbursts when he's in contact with that. But of course, they realize it's actually a werewolf, and yeah. So as far as the ending goes, we do get a lot of good stalking scenes in the woods when the whole team's trying to look for Talan in the woods and things like that. They even try to chase him down in a car, but he gets into the woods, he escapes into that. There's even a great scene where they go into these caves that Talan had told Kate about earlier in the movie, where him and his father had went. And his father, by the way, had died in a car accident quite a few years ago. And that's all connected to the land conspiracy thing I was telling you about with the main guy, Claus, who arrested him and things like that. So it's kind of implied that, he was connected to killing Talan's father as well. But, another great scene is, where they go in the caves looking for Talan, and, and he sort of starts picking off the SWAT members one by one. It's pretty cool. And he eventually grabs one of them, and, they have Kate try to talk him down a little bit, and it looks like it might work for a second. When he just snaps, and he, just tears into the guy's throat and kills him. And then, all the rest of the SWAT team, shoots him all at once, and it looks like he's finally killed, and he goes down. They take him in the back of a van, they're driving down the road, and then all of a sudden it flips over to the side, which is it was a really cool shot, I'll give him that. And, Talan, gets out of the van, or he's already, he was thrown out of the van maybe, but he gets up, he's alive. So that was a really cool scene, definitely. That whole stalking thing, when they're looking for him in the woods and the caves and stuff, it had a pretty good tone to it as well. And let's see, I guess I can talk about the ending now. And, there's also, they meet Talan's mother, and, you find out that she's connected to, she knows about Talan being a werewolf, basically, and, she's been covering it up for years. And, she was just trying to keep her son safe and things like that, but Gavin eventually kills her anyway, as he gets more and more into that werewolf transformation. And, eventually it comes down to Talan, Eric, Kate, and, Gavin, who's, quite a distance away at this point. Talan kills Eric. Oh, that's another weird thing about this movie. Talan, when he's a werewolf anyway, he's, really into, tearing the jaws off of people for some reason, or, the bottom part of the jaw. Because I have no idea. I have no idea why, but he tears the jaw off of the husband at the beginning of the movie, and then he tears the jaw off of Eric at the end. Even when Eric pleads with him, but he does it anyway. And eventually, Talan, of course, corners Kate, and, Gavin shows up in time, except he shaved all his hair, and he looks more evil than Talan does, basically, but he shows up, he saves Kate, and we get to see a werewolf fight with Talan and Gavin here, which I actually didn't expect to see in this movie. I just thought it was going to be the single Talan werewolf going around, but... And the werewolf fight itself, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It was basically just a lot of grappling and tossing to the ground and some strikes here and there, but I thought it was pretty cool. With the lighting and stuff, it looked really good. So, there's that. And it looks like Gavin finally beats down Talan and kills him, supposedly. He bashes his face in and things like that. Not really bashes his face in, but hits him a couple times on the head, and it looks like Talan's finally dead. His body rolls over and things like that. And, Gavin walks over to Kate, and, then she, holds up the gun that he gave to her, just, earlier in the movie, just in case he ever went too far or did something. And, she tries to shoot him, but she can't, and so he gets on his knees and lets her point the gun at his head, Well, then out of nowhere, Kate's just shot from behind, and you find out it's that guy, Claus, who's wrapped up in a lot of conspiracy with Talan and stuff. And he's the one who shot Kate right there. I don't really know why he shot Kate. That's kind of random. But maybe she knew too much or she was in too deep. I don't know. But, yeah, it's a little confusing. But, eventually, because of that, Gavin just snaps again. And then he brings down the helicopter. And it looks like he probably kills Claus and the other guys inside and stuff. So yeah, that's the ending really, and the ending gets really confusing because all of a sudden he goes to these news reports, and then it shows Gavin, except he has his hair again, and he's not all werewolf. He's actually composed. He's human, and he's saying Kate's alive. Okay, and she's recovering well, and he's feeling fine, and he's not feeling any effects or things like that. And then they also say that Talan is actually alive as well. He was thought to be dead, but they never found his body. It's meant to imply that he probably got up and ran back into the woods or something like that. So that ending was really then it just ends with Gavin saying what a monster Talan is, and he's been attacking. And that shows reports of further hikers and campers being killed and stuff like that. And then it shows one last flash of Talan's eyes before it cuts to the credits. So yeah, that's the ending. It was kind of a confusing ending, because at first we see Talan looks like he was finally beaten to death by Gavin in the werewolf form, and then it looked like Kate was killed as well, but then we find out she's actually alive, I guess, and then we find for some reason Gavin's able to revert back to complete composed human form, and he's not twisted anymore. He's fine, he's perfectly fine, and no one questions anything about anything he did that night, even with killing the mother and Talan's mother and things like that. So it was really weird, unless I missed something, but it was just a really off ending, I think. And yes, I like Talan being alive, saying that his body was never found. That's good, because I actually thought in the movie that they shouldn't have brought a second werewolf into it, to be honest. Because I felt like it would have been better if they just focused on Talan for the entire thing. And so overall, this movie was decent. It was decent, but I thought there was a lot of things that could have been done a little bit better. I thought there were some things that could have been expanded on. Like with the whole conspiracy about the land, I think they should have shown more about Claus's involvement with that, and his relationship with Talan's family and stuff like that, and what exactly happened to his Talan's father and things like that. They could have expanded a little bit more on that, and just push that rivalry further and see what happened. I really didn't like when Gavin got infected and turned into a werewolf, because it just felt a little random, and I didn't really want him to get involved, and I was like, no, don't go after Talan, that's going to screw the whole thing up. It's going to screw the whole story up, and I didn't... Yes, the werewolf fight was good, but I would rather have just had it being Talan being a single, lone werewolf in the movie. Yes, and the ending was, like I said, very confusing at first, and then just felt sort of random. So I don't really understand how Gavin could go back to being a regular composed human after what we've seen at the end, but to whatever, I guess, is what we have to go with now. And let's see how long I've been doing this. Okay, we're just about at 19 minutes right now, so I'm going to try to start wrapping this up. And the werewolf effects in this movie, I probably should talk about that a little bit first. There's really not much as far as effects go on in this movie. I mean, really, a couple complaints about this movie I've seen, calling Talan like just a big hairy guy running around killing people. It's not really too far off from that, to be honest. Hold on. Excuse me, sorry. It's not really too far off from that, to be honest, because really he just has a lot of patches of hair all over his body and his arms and things like that. But really, he just has a regular beard, he has like shaggy hair, and when he goes into like werewolf mode that I kept on talking about, nothing really changes. He just gets fangs, which we see occasionally, and mostly we're just supposed to assume that he has fangs for the most part. We don't really see him too often. Except in the action scenes where all of a sudden they're there, but they don't really look like fangs when you actually see his teeth. And I just think they could have done more for a werewolf design in this movie. Yes, okay, I guess he did have fangs, but I thought they could have made the nose look a little bit different or something, or maybe make his eyes look a little bit different other than being a little or miscolored or something like that. They could have done a little bit more of that. So yeah, he didn't really look like your werewolf that you'd really want in this movie. At first when I seen the trailer and stuff, I thought it was gonna be more of a spin on a Wolfman style, which I like the Wolfman style the most. I love the Wolfman style of design instead of the four-legged wolf creature or something like that. I like the upright, standing on his hind legs, walking around Wolfman. I like that a lot better. And I still think it was, kind of spun off of that, but I do think they could have, more like a animal or more like a beast in the face at least, while still keeping him upright like a Wolfman. They could have just made him look more supernatural, I guess you could say, or more monstrous, I guess, while still keeping that upright Wolfman design. So that was a little bit lacking in this movie, but with all the lighting and stuff, which was really nice throughout the film, I thought it worked for the most part. I like how they had Talan move around and slaughter all the SWAT guys and things like that, and kill the people in the hospital. It looked really good. He was, during the action scenes in the movie. But, I do think they could have made him look a little bit more extreme, while still keeping that Wolfman vibe to it. So yeah, overall, this movie, and, as far as the acting goes as well, AJ Cook as Kate, she's tolerable in this movie. She's not anything incredible, but she's probably the best one in the movie, I'd say. She does all right for the most part. Everyone else is sort of just average. And Brian Scott O'Connor, he doesn't really have that much lines as Talon, but he does show the anger and the ferocity pretty well, so I guess he did a pretty good job too. But everyone else is sort of just typical or your average acting level for this type of movie. So yeah, I'm finally gonna wrap this review up. So overall, it was a decent movie. It had some exciting action scenes. The scares are mostly jump scares. They can get you if you have the volume loud enough, I guess. The werewolf action, like I said, it was exciting. It looked pretty good while it was happening. CGI blood, yes, but it still looked pretty nice, I think. And so the action was good. The horror could have been a little bit better. I like the tone and atmosphere throughout the movie, especially during the stalking scenes that I mentioned earlier. But really, it wasn't too bad. It was mostly full of jump scares and things like that. And the ending was a little confusing. Yes, I like that Talon is supposedly alive at the end, but it all felt kind of random. And the whole thing about Gavin, going back to normal, basically, was a little confusing and random. I don't understand how he could do that again, but Talon's alive. He's still out there, as far as we know, so that's cool. But with him still being alive and Gavin going back to normal, it all feels like an anti-climax. I would have preferred Talon just killing Gavin or something like that. But I don't really like the introduction of Gavin as a werewolf anyway in the movie. I thought it just should have been Talon being this single lone werewolf in the movie. But overall, exciting action. Sort of a confusing ending, but not awful. Sort of lacking, though. And overall, it was a decent werewolf movie, decent action. And I know I'm being very repetitive, but overall, I recommend seeing it if you're a fan of werewolves. It's definitely one of the better takes on it in the last few years. It's not quite as on the level of Ginger Snaps. It's not nearly as good as any of those movies, actually. But I did want to say that it is better than a lot of the recent efforts, like the more modern day things like Twilight and all that kind of shit. It's better. It's a hell of a lot better than that. And it does capture the Wolfman sort of tone. Not really this Wolfman tone, but sort of the design and stuff. It was spun off of that, but I do think they could have gone a little bit further with it. for the design itself, so it is a little bit lacking. And I know I said overall for like the 100th time, but overall it was a pretty good movie. Just lacking a lot of areas. I thought they could have expanded upon a couple of the different plot points, but overall this is a very mixed bag for me. And so I'll catch you guys next time. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be picking this one up on DVD in September or not. I'm going to debate on that for a little while. But I definitely recommend checking it out if you have Comcast on demand, or if you can find it online somehow. It's definitely worth a look to see what you think of it for yourself. So yeah, it's decent as far as werewolf films go, especially for the last few years. So I'll catch you guys next time, and